Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started in just a minute, but just a reminder, if you can keep your microphones on mute. I think most of them should have entered in that format, but that would be great. Thanks.
Hey, Brandy.
Yes.
I'm hearing a lot of background noise.
Okay. So, okay, if whoever doesn't have it on mute right now, if you could mute your microphones, that would be great. That way everybody can hear. Okay. Again, just wanted to say hello. This is Brandy with ACT, and I am happy to see your faces and excited to be able to share about the ACT Now COVID-19 Response Fund. So let me, oh gosh, y'all are so early. It's not even 1 o'clock yet. Amazing. It's like people showing up early for school. So I just want to give folks a couple minutes before we jump in. So you can hold off, wait with us for a few seconds, that would be great. Okay, folks, just another reminder, if everybody can put their phones on mute right now, that would be great. We are figuring out technology as we go.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by...
Okay. So,
enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. You are in the meeting now. There are more than 30 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You are muted.
Oh dear. Okay, can everybody put themselves on mute?
Okay, Brandy, do you want me to start?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get
Brandy, as the meeting organizer, so the mass mute of everybody. Okay. Okay. Hello. I think we're getting the background because people are not getting their phone. Okay, just a reminder, please mute your phone or your video screen. If you're using both your phone and your video, you need to mute both. Okay, thank you, everybody. So I know this is a challenging time for all of us, and I want to express our appreciation at ACT for all the work that you all are doing on the ground to support our community. This really is an unprecedented challenge with the COVID-19 outbreak, and I'm just so proud to be able to work with so many creative, committed nonprofit leaders who I know are working very hard this week and the weeks to come to support our community. So welcome to our conference call to tell you about some upcoming and current grant opportunities. My name is Heather Keller. I'm the president and CEO of ACT, and I'm joined by Brandy Yee, who's our chief program officer. Just a few logistics about this webinar and this video conference. There is a chat feature if you would like to raise questions throughout the conversation. At the bottom of your video screen, if you're using the full screen mode, you should see an opportunity or a way to submit a question via chat. Also, this conversation is being recorded, so you can watch it at another time. And then finally, just a reminder, if you are joining us, to please put your phone and your video screen on mute. Okay, so I wanted to just say a little bit about the Act Now COVID-19 Response Fund. This is a fund that was created in partnership with the City of Alexandria. Many of you may recall last winter, the City of Alexandria and ACT partnered together to create a fund for in response to the partial government shutdown. And as a result, that gave us a foundation and infrastructure to create an emergency response fund for this current emergency. And so the fund was established with a $100,000 grant from the City of Alexandria. ACT has also committed $25,000 from our reserves. And we have been reaching out to the philanthropic community as well as just citizens from across Alexandria to participate and to show their love for the community by supporting the fund. We've been just blown away by the outpouring of support. We've raised a little over or a little close to $250,000 between the city and individuals and ACT. In addition, yesterday we just announced a significant donation from Amazon, $200,000. So we'll have about a little over $400,000 to support, again, the emergency work that you are doing to support our neighbors who are in most need right now. And we have already begun to make a few grants. So based on some initial conversations and learning about the immediate need. Let's see. Thank you for, I see a note from somebody about the line that is causing feedback. Brandy, is there a way you can mute that as the facilitator? Okay, Brandy's going to be looking into that while I'm talking. We've already been able to make a few initial grants, and we'll be talking more about how all of you can submit a request for funding and what some of the guidelines are in just a minute. I did want to say a few things before we jump into some of the guidelines, just to recognize kind of the time we're in and maybe some of the stress that each of you are experiencing. So we do know that there is a lot of anxiety right now, anxiety about the future sustainability of our organizations, anxiety about our ability to meet all the needs of our community. And we just don't know how long this crisis is going to impact both the health and financial well-being of our families and our friends and our colleagues. And so I think we are, again, really privileged to be in a position, I'll try and talk closer to the microphone. We are really privileged to be in a position to provide support to the community. And I just want to encourage us all to be mindful about the collective need. So although it may feel like $450,000 is a lot of money, and it is, we know that is a drop in the bucket in terms of what each of our organizations need. And so I think as we are thinking about the various requests that our organizations are submitting, we want everybody to be mindful of the collective need as well as our organizational needs. So we want to make sure that the fund is able to provide as much support as we can now and in the months to come, because we know this crisis is going to have a long-term impact on our community. And so I just can't stress enough the importance of us all just really thinking about immediate needs and not necessarily trying to replenish all the funding that opportunities that may be affected as a result of the crisis. So with that, Brandy, do you want to go on to the next slide to talk a little bit about the target populations that we're hoping to serve and support?
Yes.
The fund?
Great, thank you, Heather. Okay, we're going to take questions as we go through. Okay, so the priority populations that we're looking at funding, again, these are the most vulnerable that we see in our community at this time. We are going to be focused on children and youth. We're going to look at people who are disproportionately impacted by the crisis. That would include low-wage workers, gig economy workers, people experiencing homelessness or at risk of experiencing homelessness, healthcare and emergency response workers, seniors, and also immigrants. This is something that has come up, the immigrants, in a conversation, multiple conversations over the past couple days. Fears from the city government as well as the health department that immigrant communities aren't getting the word about what's going on, not even information about precautions that they should be taking, as well as ways to get resources. And so we really want to make sure that we're targeting this group. We know that they potentially already have a distrust of potential government as a result of some other things that have happened in the past. So we want to make sure that people or organizations are really focused on reaching these groups. Next thing I want to do is tell you a little bit about some of the sample grant requests that we have. And so I want to stress, one, that the immediate priority we have for these grants is emergency relief and support. So some sample grant requests that we will consider right now are the purchasing of emergency supplies. So that could be food, household and hygiene supplies, diapers. We also know that some groups have had to expand their programs and services or change their service delivery model as a result of this crisis. Many organizations have relied on volunteers to do a lot of the work in just general day-to-day operations in helping to get food out or to serve their populations, and knowing that a lot of times right now volunteers might not be the best people to do that. And so some groups have had to increase the amount of staff that they're using to address needs. Also just the development of new programs and outreach to support these priority populations. So like, as I just mentioned with the immigrant groups, are there ways that you are reaching them to let them know about COVID-19 and ways that they can keep them and themselves and their families safe? So again, all these requests are going to be related to an increased demand as a result of the outbreak. And we are going to consider requests as the weeks unfold. There's a potential that we might also change criteria and maybe questions on the application that may evolve as our understanding of the needs evolve. So I'm sure you all keep hearing day to day, we're taking things day to day, hour by hour. We want to be flexible and fluid. We know that the situation is fluid, and so we want to be responsive in that way. Okay, so some of the sample questions and reporting, I know some of you have already taken a head start and filled out the application, but for those who haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, it's a very simple application process we wanted to make sure we were not burdening you with too many questions, but really wanted to get an understanding of how your organization is responding to this. So here are the different things that we'll be asking. It's a simple one page. I think it takes less than 10 or 15 minutes. In lieu of formal reporting, we're going to ask grantees to just share a brief blurb, picture and or video about how they're using the grant. This information is really important to us as we begin to build awareness about the needs, to show the community and donors about how the money is being mobilized. And really, we know that this is going to be an ongoing need. And so how can we continue to encourage donors to give to this fund? So that is going to be the way that we communicate. So a lot of it will be done on social media, emails, and we are happy to help awardees in any way we can to get that information. I want to take a second and pause and see if people have questions. Okay. Yep, if you have a question, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, that would be great.
I have a question. I volunteer with the group Spread the Vote Project ID. We get people IDs. And our chapter works mainly with Alexandria residents. And one of the questions on that form is what's our budget? And we are in 12 different states, and we have several chapters in Virginia. Obviously, we're only submitting for our chapter, which works with the Alexandria residents. How would you want us to fill that field out?
That's a great question. I would go ahead and put what your budget is for your Alexandria operations. Maybe also put in a note about your organization here locally, and then the organization as a whole. You can do that.
We don't have a budget locally. We basically we run on funding like everybody else, and we submit as we spend money, basically.
Okay. Maybe we can talk offline about that. Do you want to send me an email and we can figure out a way for you to enter that information?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I am Ethiopian, and then we have, I think, tens of hundreds of thousands of Ethiopian in DC metro area. So, and then I'm a board member of the Ethiopian satellite television. So we have a television program serving the community, teaching different social services and everything. By profession, I am an economist. I'm teaching in the university. We suggest, we think that because many of Ethiopians here living even for the last 20 years, many of them, they don't speak English, so their communication is very, very poor. And then, so most of the time they watch their own television, because of that, now I am observing that many people are not getting this immense, like ample information about coronavirus. So even some people are trying to, they are talking about this cultural, traditional kind of medicine or something like that. So I was a little bit concerned. And then, so I'm thinking, I prepared a proposal, a business project proposal to get sponsorship for awareness raising on COVID-19. So we are planning to have like twice or 3 times a week. There are doctors, Amharic speaking, they speak Amharic language. So we are planning to have this teaching awareness program in Amharic language in our television. That was the fund which I'm looking for. So I have a proposal I can submit, or what should I have to do?
Yeah, so I would go ahead and complete the application
with
that information, and we can take that under consideration.
Okay, very good. Okay.
I know that there's some questions coming through on the chat. Okay. So great. Thank you, Heather, for helping to answer some of these questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
I understand that right now you're only considering emergency relief. So we are putting together things that families can do at home to try and release some of the anxiety, some of the pressure. When do you think you would be considering funds for that kind of a program?
Yeah, that's a great question. We probably are going to reevaluate from week to week.
Okay.
depending on the needs and depending on what's going to be happening in our community. And so we anticipate being in communication with you all via email or the newsletters about any different, any changes that we're making to the process.
Okay. So you wouldn't necessarily consider like school supplies to be an emergency relief support, just food, household and hygiene supplies, diapers, those types
Yeah,
of
I
things.
mean, I think it depends on what the school supplies are. I mean, if it's for kids who don't have access to certain things and they need them for their learning, I think that's something that we would consider. But maybe we can talk offline about that too.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And yes, I will. We will send the slides to everybody so that you have them, as well as the recording. Any other questions that I can answer right now before we move forward?
Brandy, I think there were some questions about the timeline that people should be considering, and then
Yes.
the size of grants or what people should take into consideration.
Great questions. I'm going to move forward on the next couple slides so we can see that. Okay, so in applying for a grant, we anticipate the average award is going to be about $5,000, and we'll accept requests for up to $10,000. The link is here, so you can apply and you can take a look at the application. As for the timeline, the deadline is going to be every Friday at 5 p.m. So you'll be able to submit your application online once we receive it by 5 p.m. They are time-stamped. We will review them the following week, early in the week, and then make a decision by the end of the week. So if you apply this Friday, you'll have a response by next Friday. So like I said, the first deadline is going to be tomorrow, Friday, March 20th. And organizations will be eligible to receive more than one award. Any questions about that? Did that answer? Oops, sorry.
So more than one award means if we, I mean, I was thinking a little bit larger, higher than 10,000, you know, like, so you can approve it case by case because it is a continuous teaching program.
Right. It is something that we're going to have to look at on a case-by-case basis, especially looking at the pool of funding that we also have available right now. So again, like Heather said, we have about $400,000+ right now, and we're hoping to raise additional funds. So as additional funds become available, we'll be able to potentially change some of the grant requirements.
Hey, it's Laura Simmons. Can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, Laura.
I have a question. You may not have the answer yet because this is more thinking through once we're out of this. We're hopeful. One of my concerns is we're keeping people afloat, you know, paying utilities, we're helping them with rent, because otherwise if we just stop, we're going to end up with thousands and thousands per person and no one will get out of it. But there will be a follow-on, even though we're supposedly back to normal as businesses gear up, they rehire. Some businesses will not be sustainable during this time, unfortunately. We will lose them. So have you given any thought yet, and I know the answer may be not yet, to how we sort of work our way through this as we roll out?
Yeah, I see Heather shaking her head, so I'm going to let her go.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've given as much thought. I should say we've given this a lot of thought, but I don't know that we have a solution. I mean, I think we know that this impact is going to be deep and long-lasting in our community. What that looks like, we're not exactly sure. I mean, some of it depends on what happens. So if our communities are able to resume, you know, normal operations in the next 3 weeks, that's going to have a different, I think, outlook than if we're looking at a couple of months in this current, you know, operating context. So I think some of it is going to depend. I think what we want to do is be positioned to address immediate needs, because we do know that many families can't miss one paycheck. And so we want to make sure that we're able to provide for those emergency supports that people need for their lives. But also we are thinking about the long-term impacts. We just haven't yet figured out how we're going to be able to address them. And some of that is going to be dependent on the availability of resources. So I'm sure that's not a perfect answer to your question. We, like everyone else, are trying to be responsive and as things kind of unfold on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis.
No, that's fine. That as long as we're all thinking about it, that makes me a little bit happier. Thanks.
Yes, yes. No, we know that the economic impact on the nonprofit community is going to be pretty significant, and we want to make sure that we're taking steps to address that. We just don't know what those steps are going to be. One thing I will say, and I forgot to mention this in the introduction, is that we have been in conversation with funders, grant makers, foundations across the region, and almost everybody is looking for ways to support and sustain the nonprofit community. So if you currently have a project or a restricted grant from a local foundation or any foundation, contact them. I'm sure they would be willing to convert it to a general operating support grant so that you have additional flexibility right now. Also, you should reach out to them if they haven't already notified you about waiving reporting requirements and that sort of thing so that you can focus on the immediate response to communities. There was a question too that came up on the chat about applications not funded this week for funding. Will they have the opportunity to be reconsidered or reapply? And I think we're still trying to figure this out, just to be perfectly honest. So my honest answer is it depends. It depends on how many requests we receive, what you tell us the needs are right now, how the fundraising continues to go through the Act Now Fund. So I think if you are not awarded a grant, we will let you know why and have a conversation with you so that you know what to do in the week ahead and the week ahead as the process rolls on. Brandy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you got it, Heather. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to run through the next few slides, starting with the census. So I know that this is probably not front and center right now, especially since there are so many things going on and so many other things that you're working on. But we do know that this is really important for our community. So many of you have probably already started to receive the census in the mail. I would encourage you, obviously, to complete it, but then also to continue to get the word out to your constituents about the importance of completing the census. So here are just some of the timelines of how the census is going to be rolled out. We're working with the city to make sure people understand that the census is safe, easy, and fast to complete. We also wanted to let you know about another grant pool, if you haven't already known, but we are allocating $10,000 for what we're calling census mini grants. We had this established before things had started picking up with the virus. So we may have to pivot a little bit here. We were hoping to have more outreach and awareness building activities that we were able to fund in hard to count communities. But we're looking for your creativity and how you're going to get the word out to people about the census. So it might not be something that you're thinking about right now, especially with immediate and pressing needs, but it's something that we want to make sure is on your radar and let you know that these grants are available. I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions about this.
To create awareness about census. People are not going to census, they are afraid of census for different reasons, immigration and all those kind of things. So, but we are trying to, to teach them, because census is going to help them, because if the county or the state is trying to make a decision about fund, like anything, it is based on that population. So can we apply separate application for this one?
Okay. Yes. So you can apply for funding through the census grants as well as through the Act Now COVID-19 Response Fund as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Were there any questions from the chat, Heather? Can you check in on that?
Yes, I'm actually responding.
Oh, good. Okay.
But I'll respond to everybody so that everybody sees. So there was one question about any thoughts on potential funding opportunities from local foundations, and I'm assuming this is in response to COVID-19 and not to the census. But the Greater Washington Community Foundation, Arlington Community Foundation, and Northern Virginia Community Foundation have all established emergency response funds. They each have different criteria, so you'll have to, unfortunately, visit their websites to learn more. I will say that Arlington and ACT have what we would call a responsive process, where we're actively soliciting requests from the community, whereas Northern Virginia Community Foundation and Greater Washington, I think, are having more of a proactive process where it's not an application process that you can apply. But I think all the foundations would welcome any questions or thoughts that you have if you meet their criteria. The other thing is that the United Way of the National Capital Area has a response fund. And my understanding is that most of the private foundations based in Washington, D.C. Are pooling their money with the Greater Washington Community Foundation for the response.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Okay, I'm going to move on to our last slide. And this is Spring to Action. So as most of you know, Spring to Action is our 24-hour giving day. It's the 10-year anniversary of this event, and we have it scheduled for April 29th. We know that there are lots of things happening in the community right now. We are mindful of that. We've also had conversations with a lot of nonprofits who have expressed the interest in continuing with Spring to Action, knowing that many of them had to cancel fundraising events that they scheduled for the spring, knowing now more than ever, nonprofits are going to need a way to engage people to give. And so as of right now, we are moving forward with Spring to Action. We are tweaking things a little bit, obviously. The nice thing is it's an online event. And so it's already built to be a place where people can engage in a socially distant way. But just a few things I wanted to let you know about our plans and potential changes. We are going to be doing an online nonprofit gathering on Monday, March 23rd at 2 o'clock. We'll send out a link for that. It's going to be an opportunity to hear from you about some of the concerns that you might have, questions that you might have, different things that you might need assistance with, so that we can make sure that we mobilize and provide you with the best support that we can. We're also going to do a little bit more research on these Zoom calls to make sure that we can make it the easiest and seamless possible. We are focusing a lot on social media, knowing that so many people right now are online and engaging in different ways and connecting there. So we will have some online engagement and messaging. I did talk to one of our team members this morning about creating some messaging around Spring to Action and tying it in with what's going on right now. So many of you might not be sure how to communicate about Spring to Action with everything that's going on. So we want to give you some resources that can help you, and you can customize those to fit your organization, but just give you some guidance on that if you need it. We're also doing a shift from doing printed materials to doing more online and downloadable graphics that you can use for your emails as well as for your social media channels. We are looking at adding an option to do an add-on donation at the checkout for donors for the Act Now COVID-19 Response Fund. This is another way that we will be able to increase donations to this fund to keep it going for the long run. And so people will have a chance to add, $1, $5 if they want to contribute to that. We are considering opening early giving. Early giving normally is 2 weeks before the event. We are considering doing it 3 weeks before, but we would love to hear more of your comments about that on our call on March 23rd. And we also know many of you are thinking about local businesses. Many local businesses support you in the work that you do with Spring to Action. They participate as business fundraisers, they're sponsors of Spring to Action. And so we really want to try to do as much as we can to bring awareness to how we can also help local businesses during this time, because many of them are trying to support their own operations and pay their employees. And so we will have a page that used to be kind of our dedicated events page for all the different things going on around town in the social gatherings. But we'll have something dedicated to what businesses are doing and how individuals might be able to support them as well. So these are just some of the things that we're thinking about. Again, once we have our call on Monday, I have a feeling we'll have more ideas and look forward to hearing from you there. We are monitoring the situation, I think, as we've said with all things, kind of on a day-to-day, hourly basis. So if anything changes, we will let you know. But as of right now, we are moving forward with Spring to Action. I'm going to take another pause to see if there are any questions that people have. And maybe I should also say, if you have not signed up to participate in Spring to Action yet, there is still time. And you would just go online to springtoaction.org and click on the register button. And if for some reason you don't feel like participating in Spring to Action is the right thing for your organization right now, and you've already signed up, let us know, and we can help you with that process as well. Okay. Any questions? Was there anything coming through on the chat related to Spring to Action? Okay. All right, so moving to the last slide. And okay, this is the question slide as well as my contact information, so that if you have any questions about any of the things that we talked about or any other feedback that you would like to share with us, please contact me. My email is there. The phone number, the numbers are being answered and they're being routed to each of the staff members. I also wanted to let you know on some of the calls that we've been on, we've been getting a lot of questions around what resources are available and how can we share information about the different ways that organizations are responding. So we would like to help in any way that we can. We would like to hear what are the things, resources that you might have. So we will set up a Google form and I will send that out as well for people to complete. If there's something that you need to add about some of the services maybe that your organization is providing, and we will want to compile all that information in one place in partnership with the city and ACPS to make sure that we have resources so that if you encounter anyone, whether it's people you're seeing through your nonprofit or anyone in the community that wants to know about resources that are available, that we would have that. Okay. Any other last questions or comments?
And Brandy, we can stay on the line too,
Yep.
as folks have questions. So if all of your questions have been answered, feel free to jump off. But if you want to stay on the line and pose a few more questions, we'll be here. Great.
Thank you, Heather. And thank you to everyone. Thank you so much for being on this call. Thank you for everything that you're doing for our community. We've just been so encouraged by the outpouring of generosity and the working together. And we know many of you are working 24/7 trying to help the people that you serve. And so we are so grateful for you, and we want to be able to help you in any way that we can. So please reach out to us if there's anything that we can do. If we don't have the answer, we'll try to get you the right answer or get you connected to the right people. But we're here for you and just want you to know that we care about you a lot. And so we want to make sure you're taking care of yourselves as well. So yeah, okay. I'll stop talking.
So we can access this this PowerPoint presentation, isn't it?
Yes, I will send this out very shortly with the PowerPoint and the recording, and then any of the links that we have as well. And thank you all for these nice little notes that you're leaving. It is really nice to be connected and to see some faces, and so thank you.
And Brandy, there was a question about making sure that they have access to the Google form. Do you think sending that in the email today, or is that?
Yes, yes, we will send that out as well. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions emerging for folks? If you're talking, you're on mute. We can't hear you. Okay, we're mostly on the chat, just getting notes of appreciation. So thank you. Well, I think that's it, Brandy.
Okay, great. I'm going to stop recording, so it's not just us anymore. And if I can figure out how to do that. Okay.